So we're gonna start with Daniel Bigbee. So Daniel and I met about 30 years ago-ish. We both worked in recruiting for the company Tech Systems, had very similar careers, and eventually Daniel decided to leave Tech Systems and he went out to Amazon. And one of the greatest things that I've found about starting Revel and just being out there is you get a chance to connect with old friends and old colleagues. And you, once you recognize with networking, you never actually lose touch with people. The experience you have with your best friends from high school or your friends from college, or just even like the connections you have because you have some similar things like the same sorority or the same school. That's what I found with, reaching out to Daniel. Haven't talked to him in probably 20 years. And I just know he will be a great interview for you guys tonight. And within one DM on LinkedIn, he says yes. Next year, he's signed up. And so I just want to kind of encourage everybody, networking is a lifetime skill. It's not something we just want to do to get you a job. So Daniel, thank you for being here. We appreciate you here.
Nice
Yeah.
intro.
Yeah.
30 years. Wow. I mean,
Crazy?
I didn't know what to say about that. That's a whole nother thing, right? So I didn't feel like 30 years. I feel rejuvenated by this. And frankly, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to this group. I do this a lot, and I get more out of it than you could ever imagine. And things that I pick up from the group, I will probably take some notes as I go. And I'm really excited to speak to the whole group. So let me give you a quick intro about who I am. Marcy and I go way back, but I'm an Amazonian. I've been here for around 8 years. But before that, I was with Tech Systems for a long time, and I actually started my own firm. I had that entrepreneurial kind of feeling after I left corporate America, and I did that for about 8 to 10 years, and then joined Amazon. And I'll tell you a little story about trying to join Amazon because I think I was in the same spot as many of you. I think my strongest credential in giving this talk today is I have two kids. I have one that is a senior at Northeastern. And she just pinged me today, or she sent me a note today saying, "Hey, Dad, what do I do? I got this job opportunity. How do I go about it?" So she goes, "Do you know anything about this?" I'm like, "Okay, I got you." Right. And so I spent a little bit of time with her. And I also have a son who is in the final year of law school and looking for work as well. So many of the things that I'm going to speak to this group about today, I have pressure tested with my family. And you'll probably take it a little bit better than me. When I give them information, it's like they don't really want to hear it too much. So I don't know, Ty, I see Ty on here. Listen to her. If you can, try to listen to her. She knows what she's talking about. And I hope to give you a little bit of information about really some tidbits on how to approach a larger company and how to approach corporate America, so to speak. And I'll give you a little bit of Amazonian wisdom. I'm not speaking on behalf of Amazon today, but I do consider myself an Amazonian, so I'll refer to many things around here. But I don't want it to come up like I'm a spokesman for Amazon, but I can give you a lot of inside track on how we think. Fair enough? Got the thumbs up across the board? See some nodding heads?
Love it. Well, and Daniel, so thank you for doing that because I think it's difficult from the outside. You see this great brand of Amazon and just not really even knowing how to navigate to get a shot at bigger companies like Amazon. So I think it's a perfect example. And from here,
I'll give you an example right off the bat, Marcy. So 8 years ago, I had a long time at Tech Systems. I had my own recruiting company. I just sold it. I felt on top of the world, and I applied to Amazon, right? And I got nothing back. I mean, not a pin drop, no feedback, no nothing, no response back. About 4 weeks, and I'm thinking, well, am I not qualified? Did I not do the right thing? And then I started a network, and I ran across a recruiter, and I said, "Hey, can you pull me up in the system and see, where I am in the process?" Now, I'm not assuming that everyone will have that access, but that's just one example. She pulled me up. She goes, "Oh, you were tagged to a wrong rec. Let me tag you to another rec." And the next thing you know, I had an interview call the next day, and the kind of the rest is history. If I would have never made that call, if I would have never networked, I probably wouldn't have been working on Amazon. I might, maybe, but I don't underestimate the power of networking and how to make those connections. I know that's kind of a theme. I listened to last week, by the way. Andy was really good. Both speakers. I didn't see Kaplan. Kaplan was really good too, I know. But I learned a lot from listening to them, and I know you're getting little nuggets. Not every nugget's going to work, right? And so take what you can get, try them, continually try them. They will work over time, I assure you. So I hope I can give you a little bit of tidbits today. I know you have a few questions kind of pre-canned for me. Marcy, how do you want to handle the logistics of this? Do you want me to answer any of the questions you already sent me? I know I've got one question here.
Yeah, Pri and Izzy are going to take the lead with asking the
Okay,
interview
great.
questions. So I'll let you two jump in from here.
Okay, hi, I'm Pretoria. I go by Pri. But thank you, Daniel, first off, for being here and taking the time out of your day to, sit on this call with us. You kind of already answered some of my question, but kind of in general, what advice do you have for networking, interviewing when trying to land a job at a large company with many online postings?
Yep. It's a good question, Pri. Thanks for bringing it up. You'll see me looking up because I took a bunch of notes and hey, when you're interviewing for jobs, don't be afraid to take notes. Don't be afraid to write things down. I think everyone thinks this is some kind of memory exercise to where you have to kind of show that, hey, I got it all up here. That it's not a memory test. So I like it when someone opens their portfolio and they have questions for me. I like it when they're taking notes. So I did that for this meeting. So don't be afraid to do that, even in an interview, right? So an interview shouldn't be about gotchas. It should be about kind of a firm assessment on your capabilities. And if writing it down just shows me that you're diligent. But getting back to your question, sorry, Bree. I first and foremost, I want you to think about your job search in general. When you're looking for a job, it is a job. And I want you to treat it like a job, meaning which I want you to be very regimented and very diligent and have a process in how you interface, because these large companies will take a period of time or potentially a longer period of time to engage with, right? So I want you to, first of all, canvass a job site. And a lot of job sites will have, I think I can put this in chat. Let me try this real quick. We'll have their postings, and then they'll have a section that will be specific to, here's the chat. I got it. Will be specific to university grads, right? And because a lot of times you'll go on like Amazon jobs, which is great. But historically, it is very difficult for someone who just graduated to walk into a job at Amazon. So a lot of times we'll have university level jobs that we kind of cater towards people that are getting out of the university or internships. So I strongly advise canvassing and looking at the overall organization and seeing if there's anything that's been catered towards people that are just graduating. So it's kind of remedial, but I want to just make sure everyone knows to do that. Second of all, go ahead.
Just a real on this point, it's really important what he's showing you. It's not hard to go online and look at some great companies. And then there's also like on LinkedIn, there's job alerts and things like that. But the more informed you are, there are so many companies trying to find you. So you may have this feeling there's not a lot out there, but they're out there. They're looking for you, they're hiring you. And the other thing I saw when I clicked the link, they have internships too. So just because some of you are graduating, an internship with a company like Amazon is phenomenal on your resume. You are going to learn from some of the best in terms of processes and so many different things. If you can just get fly on the wall in some of these best companies as an intern, it opens your eyes to so many more possibilities. So Daniel, just want to say thank you for sharing that.
No, it's a great call out. I think going in the front door of a company can be difficult. And so my advice is be very diligent and create a funnel. I'm a salesperson in general. Being at Tech Systems, it's a recruiting company, but I was really a salesperson, to be honest. And what I learned at Tech Systems was it's all about funnel management. It's how do you manage those prospects? How do you stay in touch with them over time? And so my first thing is get either a shared doc or a Google doc or an Excel doc. Get all of your options, list them out, and then start thinking, how often am I going to be in touch with these people, and which ones are closed out and which ones are still open and which ones have I applied to? I can't advise you enough that the rigor that you put behind finding a job could be the reason why you get the job. Just the constant follow-up, because many people will, again, they'll apply to a job and then they'll just disappear because like, hey, I didn't hear back. Well, it's really incumbent upon you as the potential employee to kind of push the envelope and show the value proposition. I'm going to speak a little bit about that later through my interview on kind of the things to focus on, but I just want to hit that point really quick. But here's the other piece. Cross-reference people that you know that are associated with that company. I know that sounds like a no-brainer, but I can't tell you how many. I went to Oklahoma State, right? And I can't tell you how many pings I get from people from Oklahoma State that will say, "Hey, I'm interested in Amazon. Can you help me?" And I'm usually super busy and I don't have time. But the fact that they reached out, the fact that they are pulling on the OSU, heartstring, I always get back with them. And it may be like, hey, I can see your profile. Maybe don't do this, but try this, or maybe do an internship. Cross-reference any single person that you might have any kind of connection with, whether it be through sports. I heard last week with the collegiate athlete, whether it be where they went to school, whether it be friends, family, church, whatever it might be. Look for that connection and leverage it inside the company. Fair enough? Get some thumbs up on that. Okay. What else do I have here? Oh, hey, consistent follow-up. You may feel like it is a hopeless task, right? You've been doing this for a month. I haven't heard anything back yet. Maybe I'm not qualified. And this goes for, and Marcy, I may speak a little bit in terms of underrepresented populations that I deal with day to day. So part of my job, I'm an HR director at Amazon. Part of my job is kind of fostering a more diverse workplace. And what I've noticed through many studies is that women historically tend not to apply to a job that they don't have all of the qualifications for. I don't know why. I'm not implying that as a group, so please don't take this away from the conversation, but I'm bringing it up because just because you have, 3 out of 5 doesn't mean you're not qualified for the job. So my advice to you is, even if you have 3 out of the 5, 4 out of 5, and you're missing something, an employer with the right lens will tend to look at candidates that don't meet every item that is what we call a basic qualification. So I just want to throw that out there. I know it's not part of this, but it's just something I want this group to think about. I'm going to pause for a second. Any questions on what I've rolled out so far? Marcy, am I hitting the right buttons? Yeah? I think so.
Definitely. You are. Absolutely. And it's
okay.
Thank you. Izzy, did you want to ask another question?
Yes, I had a question myself. Hi, I'm Izzy, by the way. It's nice to meet you. And we're super thankful for you to be here. You've been so insightful already. And you've kind of already dabbled a little bit throughout like the hiring process and how you kind of got your foot in the door by reaching out proactively. But I just wanted to follow up and ask if you had any pieces of advice throughout the application process, or what you think makes an applicant stand out on their actual resume. And I know internships, of course, are something that's super important to have, which is something that we all, I feel like, have talked about a lot throughout these past few weeks. But is there anything else that you recommend, or even during the interview process, if you have any tips about that as well?
Yeah, that's a good question, Izzy. I think internships are great, right? But that's only just one little piece. And so I've got a number of things, and I'm going to speak as an Amazonian for starters, and I'll broaden it out a little bit. The first thing I want this group to do, I have like 4 or 5 things, but the first thing is really understand the company's culture. It's all about what I call taxonomy and your ability to speak their language, right? And, I have salespeople come in to me, vendors come into me all the time, and they don't understand Amazon's language, right? And they try to speak in generalities, and as an Amazonian, it really doesn't really work. And so I'm going to give you a few tricks that will work with Amazon. They may work with other companies as well. So the first thing is we are baked in what I call leadership principles. We have 16 of them. And you hear these things about, hey, that's their culture and they have these leadership principles. They truly are the way that we speak. So if you want to engage with Amazon, you have to do it with leadership principles, meaning which when you interact with someone, like with a LinkedIn Outlook, bake in some of the leadership principles that you're learning about, an Amazonian will immediately clue into that and say, hey, this person's done their homework, right? They understand what we call LPs are and why they're important. So that would be my first one. Second thing, you got to be able to quantify your achievements. And there's one thing saying I've done something, but the extra step that Amazon and many companies are, what was the impact of what you did? How do you quantify impact? Now, that doesn't mean it has to be huge. It just means that you're thinking about data and how a metric might work. It could be with a nonprofit, it could be with a club, it could be with your school. It's the difference between saying, hey, I'm at the top of my class, and saying, I'm in the top 10% of my class, and I had a GPA of this, this, and this. Or I want you to think, how do you bake in data to how you communicate? Because that is how most businesses speak, and that's how Amazon speaks in terms of what we look for. See, there's oh, good, yeah, for sure. So another thing is, what I look for at Amazon is people that can thrive in ambiguity. When you go to a startup, there's not many parameters. When you go to Amazon, you think it's just kind of like, hey, this is how everything kind of works. If you're interacting with Amazon specifically, we like people that can deal with ambiguity. So as you're interacting in an interview or you're doing a reach out, you may want to reference, hey, I'm comfortable with not having to be led around and told what to do it all the time, right? And so that you will thrive in our environment by doing that. I look for people that are logical and problem solving, and that goes back to the impact. Show that you can solve problems, whether it be at school or a club or a nonprofit or in your internship. Have use cases where someone gave you a problem, that you analyzed the problem, and then you were able to show impact with what you did. So I do have one other quick thing. I don't know if anyone knows that Amazon's got this kind of reputation about writing documents. Has anyone ever heard that before? There's a thing in Amazon about writing documents, right? And normally we write a lot of docs. And so when I go to a meeting, there's no PowerPoint. I haven't seen a PowerPoint in 8 years, right? And I think PowerPoint's great, but what we do at Amazon is that we tend to write documents, 2-pagers, 6-pagers. It's a big idea. And we bring it to a meeting, and then we let everyone read it. And then if it's a good idea, we action the idea. And I think it's really important because at Amazon, no matter where you come from, what you look like, what level you are, if you can write a document and you can back it with data, you tend to get things done. And I'm only bringing that up because I think your ability to write is an important undervalued skill that many employers are looking for. Right now, it's not easy because, like at tech systems, they didn't make us write at all. Not a lot. I mean, we talked a lot and we sold a lot, and we were very outgoing, and we showed that. But I didn't have that skill, and so when I came to Amazon, I really focused on improving writing. And there's 2 ways you do it: you write and you read. And so I strongly advocate for all this group to write as many docs as you can, either to yourself. We use what we call a PRFAQ. It's called a PR. You can look it up, just PRFAQ online, and it's kind of working backwards from what a customer might look for. So if you're ever interacting with anyone from Amazon, be very careful how you interact with the way that you write, whether it be an email or show them examples. If you can show them examples of something you've written, either in class or something with one of your mentors, I think that's a good way to go. So I'm going to pause. Talked a lot. Am I talking too much, Marcy?
No, this is great. So for everyone, what we're talking here, so when Daniel's talking about, let's say one of you really wants to work for Amazon, as he's talking, he's senior level and he has an expectation that you may not know. So when you're preparing for the interview, if you're just reading a little bit about it, it's going to get you a little bit there. But if I were you, I would recommend find anybody that works at Amazon and be like, okay, tell me some things that are important. And they'll reference this stuff, like I don't remember those, but like PRFQ or whatever it
Yeah.
was. You're going to want to know those little lingo so you don't kind of zone out in the interview, or you're already prepared to talk about it. So when it comes to networking, remember, you don't go just hi. You want to kind of use your peers to kind of get that type of insight. And that's why it's important. Just a little bit of effort makes a long, big difference. So Daniel,
And the STAR technique is something that all of you should know. And if you don't know about it already, look it up. I think it's super important in your ability to articulate what you've done and what impact it makes. So,
and Dan, I'm just going to ask one more question. So the STAR technique, if you want to
Yeah.
explain a little bit more, but let's just say you or your team is interviewing 20 people, 20 candidates. Can
Yep.
you share what goes on behind the scenes to
Mm-hmm.
compare the applicants, just to kind of give them a little bit of a view? It's not hard. If you were to line up 20 people and literally get to know them, you're like, okay, I'm totally going to beat you, right? Like you would size them up and you would know how to get the interview. But if you're blind to their scorecard and how the process is, you're just going to go in and you might not win because you had no game plan. So
Yep.
can you tell a little bit about like behind the scenes.
Yeah, so it's a really good question, Marcy. So at Amazon, it's a little different. We don't what I call stack rank candidates, meaning which we have a bar or an expectation for a role. And if you interview for that role and you meet the expectation and what we call raising the bar, you exceed the interview loop. We usually have 5 people interview every candidate, and then we do a debrief after, and we assess how they did in the interview. And if you raise the bar, then we're going to hire you right there. We don't wait and then compare you to 10 other candidates that might be interviewing for that job. So timing is really important. If you see an open job, grab that job, because if someone interviews, they won't wait to see if, hey, I'm going to wait and see if I get more people to interview. Like, a lot of people try to stack up 5 or 6 candidates and compare them. We don't do that at Amazon. We hire the person that we see in front of us. And if they exceed the expectations, we're going to hire them right there. So timing is super important. The last thing a lot of people worry about trying to find out where that person's from and try to align and mirror and do some things in the interview. I think that's great. Don't get me wrong. But with companies like Amazon or Apple, I know you had some folks from Apple last week. It's all about the examples that you give and your ability to articulate why your value proposition can move the needle in the company. You don't have to worry about, hey, I know you went to Denison, I played lacrosse there. Like, I think that's great, but that's not going to get you a job at Amazon. And I'm not saying it's not important in life in general, but I really want this group to focus on what you've done and what impact it's made, even if it's small. The fact that you can tell the story, it's important. And so that's a little secret behind the scenes at Amazon. It's a big company. My advice is, if you want to join Amazon, keep applying, look for the jobs, look for connections. Don't be discouraged. If you really want to join Amazon, you can find a way to Amazon, no doubt about it. And with any other company, there's a lot of really Microsoft, Apple, Meta. There's some really good tech companies that I deal with every day that this group would bring value to.
That's great. Well, Daniel, we so appreciate you being here and sharing all this insight. And each time we're going to have some sort of takeaway. But for me, with this one, I would go back to my resume and I would just make sure, is there a result? Like, look at that star and like, do you have an interview story for each one of those where you're nailing a result? And